Welcome to the Becoming Superhuman podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to bring you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
This episode is brought to you by Organifi. You know, the one thing that literally every single diet and nutrition expert that we've had on the show seems to agree on is that we need to eat more veg and get our greens and consume all natural products. But let's be honest. How many of us actually have the time? Well, recently I had the opportunity to meet some of the folks over at Organifi, and I've been absolutely blown away by them and their product. You see, Organifi is an organic superfood green juice powder that literally covers all your nutritional bases without having to eat 5 bowls of kale. It saves you loads of time, loads of money, and a lot of chewing. And really all you have to do is add water and drink it. So to check it out and save an incredible 20% off your first order, visit Organifi.com. That's Organifi.com and use coupon code SUPERHUMAN at checkout. Before we get started today, I want to let you guys know that this episode is brought to you by the online course, Creating a Meaningful Life. Now, this course is the culmination of 20 years of work and research by my personal mentor and university professor, Linda Levine, and myself. Now, in it, we teach not only the skills and strategies that we've used and taught and which are being used by life coaches all over the world to create a life of fulfillment and balance, but we also go into how you can design your lifestyle, how you can improve in every aspect, all 8 of the aspects that make a complete and rich life. And really, we share a lot of our wisdom. So if you've been inspired by the show, by some of the guests on here who seem to have these incredibly rich, fulfilling lives, I do encourage you to check it out. And of course, it is backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. So to take advantage of a special coupon for listeners of this podcast, visit jle.vi/meaning. All right, here we go with the show. Greetings, super friends, and welcome to today's show. You guys, today we are joined by Cedric Bertelli. He's an expert in a little known but very interesting practice called Tipi. Now, if you haven't heard of Tipi, well, I hadn't either, but it's an emotional regulation technique that actually helps people overcome fear and trauma extremely quickly. So it deals with something called sensory memory or unconscious body memory. Now, as I said, I had no idea what Tipi was before the interview, but I thought it was a really interesting and intriguing concept. So I was really excited to invite Cedric onto the show to explain it to us. So throughout the episode, we talk about this interesting and shockingly simple method for overcoming emotional trauma basically instantly. And we learn about Tipi and how it works, why and how the method was developed, the research behind it. And then we discuss the body and the brain and their natural ability to heal themselves from literally anything. There's a lot of interesting metaphors there into the way that our bodies works. Now, Cedric doesn't hold anything back. He shares with you exactly how the method works and how you can use it and experiment with it at home. Now, I will say that this method really goes against so much of what we think we know about psychological trauma and psychiatry, psychology, healing. But I encourage you guys to keep an open mind because, as I point out in the interview, I really felt a little bit like I did when I was talking to Wim Hof, who has really shocked the scientific community and the medical community at that with his ability to teach people to control the autonomous nervous system with a simple breathing technique. So again, I encourage you guys, keep an open mind. I think though this is such a simple method, there may just be something to it. And I think you guys will find it very interesting and uplifting to hear Cedric talk about it. So without any further ado, let me present to you guys Mr. Cedric Bertelli. Mr. Cedric Bertelli, welcome to the show, my friend. We're so excited to have you today.
Well, hello. I'm very, very excited to be with you today.
Awesome. I understand you have been a listener of the show for quite some time, actually.
Yes, I did. And thank you for what you're doing. It's always useful, inspiring, And yeah, just thank you, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So Cedric, I'm really excited to learn a little bit about Tipi today, T-I-P-I. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yes, it is. Yes, Tipi. It's a weird name, but that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to get into that. But first, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in this little known thing called Tipi.
Tipi. Yeah, Tipi. Well, it's a second career for me. The first career was in hospitality business. I was working for the Ritz-Carlton here in the United States. I first started as a chef, and then I did my way up until restaurant directors. And all my life, I was dealing with anxiety, anger issues, and such things. And as I became a leader, and at the time I used to have 250 employees underneath me, I was trying to, become a better leader, become a more confident, stronger person. So I was doing a lot of workshops and psychotherapy and all this good stuff. But nothing that I was doing was really, I don't want to say it wasn't working, but it wasn't pragmatic enough for me. Everything was asking work and constant efforts. And I knew in the bottom of myself, in the bottom of my heart, that something simpler must be possible in order to feel better, in order to feel stronger, in order to feel more like myself. At the time, at the Ritz, they used to call me Napoleon. First because I'm short, and then because I was throwing some pretty strong tantrum. I had a reputation to explode in anger. Well, anyway, long story short, I did a Google research at the time. It was 2009, and in French, and I found this program called Tipi, and they were claiming at the time that, we were still claiming it, but at the time they were having a lot of attention from the medias over there in Europe, because they were claiming that in 30 minutes, anyone can resolve any kind of emotional difficulties permanently.
Wow. Sounds like a tall order.
Yep, absolutely. And I was quite skeptical, but hey, I tried. Man, I'm in California, so there's everything here. So I tried about everything, dancing naked around the fire and beating pillow and you name it. So I said, okay, listen, why not? So I picked up the phone and I did a session from the States with a specialist in France. And the emotion I worked on never came back. It was a specific anger, and this anger never came back. So I became interested, and I contacted them again, and I asked them to teach me how to do the work on myself by myself. So basically, how to regulate my own emotional difficulties, because we do that. Mm-hmm. And they did. I worked on 4 main emotions that I didn't want in my life anymore, such as jealousy, anxiety, a slight depression I was feeling. And I gave myself about 6 months after regulating all these emotions in order to see if they were coming back or not. And 6 months after doing the session on myself, the emotion did not come back. So then I became really interested. And I picked up my phone and I called the program back in France. And I said, hey, I don't know anything about emotional regulation, sensory memory, because that's what we're working with. But I'm very much willing to learn. And if you take me in the program, I'd love to take this work here in the US. And they say, hey, why don't you come over? So I quit my job at the Ritz and I flew back to France and I started learning from the guy who created it. His name is Luc Nicon. I studied with him for 2 years. And in 2011, I came back in the States with the project, and that's what I'm doing now, to bring this work, educate, and train people to do it.
Wow. So tell us now about Tipi. I mean, what is it? It sounds really interesting because when researching it, thought it was kind of an in-person, physical, meditative thing. But you said your first session was conducted over the phone. So Tell us how Tipi works and what it is.
Yeah, but Tipi it's a research program basically from France. It was created by a gentleman named Luc Nicon. Luc is a researcher in behavioral sciences and what you call in France pedagogia, which is the art of teaching. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the 2 experts to do this, to create program to teach through the sensory memory. That means through the body. Well, basically what Luc is recognized in Europe is for 2 main discoveries. The first one is through a landmark study that in order for any one of us to have a disruptive emotional pattern such as stress, anxiety, depression, PTSD, one must have lived at some point, we must have lived at some point, unwilling short loss of consciousness. That means I was able to demonstrate that in order for us to have a pattern, a disruptive emotional pattern, as we say, at some point we had what we can call a short death, a moment that our vital function shut down. And this moment happened about 96% of the time in utero. So during our pregnancy, when we are in the belly of our mom, and at birth. That's the first thing is recognized for, to link events, short loss of consciousness events to emotional patterns later on in life. But that's not what really TP is all about. TP is all about his second discovery, which is he was able to prove, to demonstrate through study that anyone, from a point of emotion, when we feel an emotion, anyone has a natural biological ability to regulate permanently emotional difficulties. Basically, he was able to show that when we feel an emotion, everything is triggered in our brain, in our body, in order to resolve this emotion completely and permanently. And how do we do that? We use the physical sensation present in the body during an emotion. Basically, he was able to show how the physical sensation present in a body during an emotion create a direct path to the origin of the emotional difficulty. And that to follow this path without trying to control it whatsoever, but to consciously follow this path, follow the sensations basically as they evolve during an emotion, allow the neuronal system to integrate this emotion once and for all.
Wow.
So you're absolutely right. We can do sessions on the phone, in person. I do most of my sessions on Skype and on the phone, actually. Mm-hmm. All we got to do is to retrigger the reptilian brain, retrigger the emotional memory of a person very specifically, and we're expert to that, in order for the body to generate physical sensations. And then we just use those sensations to revisit the origin of a difficulty. A session, a TP session, take between 10 and 30 minutes, never more. And we guarantee the result.
Wow. Interesting. So essentially, it's about creating this physical sensation, this physical condition that digs you back into the sensation that the emotion caused and thereby allows you to kind of heal over it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the most natural way to use this ability, because it's really a natural ability, man, it's really like sleeping. The body is wired to regulate its disruptive emotional pattern. We're not meant as human beings to carry stress, anxiety, or to ever control it. This is nonsense. The body has an ability to heal, exactly like when we cut ourselves. After a few days, the wound is healing, and then you don't see the wound anymore. The body has same exact healing power when it comes down to emotions. It's not weird if you think about it. We think it's normal when you burn ourselves, then we heal, but it's weird for us as human beings when we say that, okay, your emotions can be healed as well. No, it's exactly the same thing. The body has this ability. It's natural. It's biological.
Wow.
And when you feel the emotion, those sensations, because when you think about it, Jonathan, how do you know that you're feeling such or such emotion? How do you know you feel angry or upset or stressed? How do we know that as human beings?
We feel it in our bodies.
You're absolutely right, man. Emotions start first through a first set of physical sensations triggered by the reptilian brain. And then when our cognitive brain, when our intellect cannot manage this first set of sensations, that's when an emotion comes. That's the only time an emotion comes. It is when our brain, our intellect cannot manage the first set of sensations. The first sensation biologically start with physical sensations. That's the only way the reptilian brain, where our emotional reaction are stored, that's the only way the reptilian brain can communicate to our consciousness. It is through physical sensations. Mm-hmm. The only way we can go back to the root is through the same path.
Fascinating. And so this is kind of a one-time treatment. It's spoken word, obviously, if it can be conducted remotely, digging into a physical sensation. I imagine it's very intense. If this is kind of a one-time solution, I imagine it can get very intense.
You know what? And that's a crazy thing. No, not at all. Because with TP, we're going to re-trigger the emotion at the beginning. And if you will, when we have a first set of physical sensation and let us know that we're angry or afraid or or we have a phobia or depressed, when you re-trigger this first set of sensations, these are not intense at all. They become intense as they escalate, as we try to control them. But this first set of sensations that let us know how we feel and then cannot be controlled by our intellect, this first set is not intense at all. So when somebody do a session on themselves or with a specialist, the sensations, I'm not going to lie to you, can be quite uncomfortable. They can be scary at times, but most of the time, I would say 80% of the time, they don't feel bad at all. They don't feel extremely hurtful or uncomfortable at all.
Okay, so I mean, I understand we can't go into too much detail here because this is probably something that people need to experience, but walk me through a typical session. I mean, where does the practitioner begin?
So let's say you want to learn to do it on yourself by yourself, right? Let's say that you don't want to call a specialist, that you want to, basically how I did it, I take care of your responsibility for your own being or your own emotional freedom. It's extremely simple. It's so simple that I tell you right now, it's going to sound like a scam, okay? But you're going to have to try it. You're going to have to try it. So let's say you feel an emotion, I don't know, anxiety. You're about to give a big talk. I don't think you feel that, but let's say someone is about to give a big talk and wow, before getting on stage, he feels super anxious, right? If he wants to resolve this anxiety once and for all, he would have to, go in a space where he's not going to be disturbed as he feels the emotion, as he feels the stress. Close his eyes. Pay attention to the physical sensations that he feels right then, and only the physical sensations. That's a sensory memory. When this guy, let's say, is paying attention to the physical sensation, something already quite magical is going to happen. It is that the emotional reaction he was feeling, the anxiety as we call it in this case, is going to stop right away. Because as human being, we cannot be in the sensorial, in the physical sensations, and in the emotional. It is impossible. We can be in one channel or in another one. So if someone is feeling an emotion, whatever emotion it is, if they close their eyes and they pay attention to the physical sensations, the emotional reaction will stop right away. It's amazing to see with kids, for example. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he closes his eyes, he pay attention to the physical sensations, and he observes the sensations as they evolve. You will see that the physical sensations do not stay static. Once you start paying attention to them, they're going to start to evolve and to move in the body. The intensity will change. The positioning in the body will change. They will evolve for about between 2 seconds and 1.5 minutes, never more. If we do not interfere with them, if we do not control them or concentrate too much on them, the sensation will evolve between 2 seconds and 1.5 minutes. Most of the time for us, it's about 30 to 45 seconds. After the sensations evolve, this guy will feel calm, completely calm, physically and psychologically. At this point, he can open his eyes.
Wow.
And the emotion that he was feeling, the anxiety, for example, will not come back. This kind of anxiety will not come back ever again.
Interesting. I mean, it sounds a lot like meditation, I have to admit.
Yes, absolutely.
Quite a bit like meditation.
The difference between Tipi and meditation is that you do meditation at any time, right? Mm-hmm. To meditate, you do Tipi at a specific time of your life. You only do Tipi. Tipi only does one thing. It's regulating emotion. That's the only thing we do. But you enter at a point of emotion. When you feel an emotion, basically it's our body screaming, telling us, okay, now is the moment to regulate it. So yes, you're right. It can sound like meditation. It also sounds like when Eckhart Tolle talk about the power of now and feel the emotion. When all these authors that I read and I can understand them, but I wasn't able for the longest time to do it, to stay present. I think what Tipi is doing is simply taking all this knowledge, all this understanding of staying present to their most pragmatic meaning, which is stay present with the body, stay present with the sensations as they happen in you and not with the emotion.
Right.
And just stay present with the sensations and let them do whatever they want without trying to breathing into it, without trying to have a glass of water or take some deep breath. No, you got to stay present with the sensations and observe them. It's a conscious process. It's an active process, and observe them as they evolve in your body.
Interesting. So what kind of emotions can you work through with this?
Any kind of emotional difficulties, anxiety, any kind of phobia, PTSD, depression, anger. Right now I'm working with a lot of, I don't know if I should say it, but it doesn't matter. I'm working right now with, for example, a lot of mom who are feeling anger toward their kids. When you're a young mom, you're often struggling because you're feeling anger toward your kid, a baby, or a young child, and you don't want to feel this way. But wow, sometimes it's quite intense, right? When the baby is screaming and there is an anger there, and it's possible to be regulated. Really, it really depends. It's a lot of anger as well, jealousy, performance anxieties for men, anything that don't make you feel good, basically, emotionally.
Very interesting. I'm wondering, because, I've been very stoic for a long time, and I often will tell people that I really only feel positive emotions 99% of the time. And you'll meet people, and that's through meditation and just, cognitive framing, old-fashioned, choosing how I want to feel. But you'll meet a lot of people who believe that that's not healthy, that you're bottling emotions, or, the kind of classic cliche that in order to feel happiness, you need to feel sadness. In fact, a study recently came out saying to that effect. What do you think about that? I mean, what do you say to people who would argue that you need to feel these emotions sometimes, that they're natural, that they're healthy, that they're a part of being human?
When you say that you feel good and positive all the time, man, I totally get you, because that's the way I feel as well. But would you see that you bottle your difficult emotion? They just don't have any impact on you anymore. You don't feel them anymore.
Right. I would say it's kind of, for me, a means of just letting the emotions pass through me. So rather than letting them in and bottling, it's kind of just letting things go through me. It's really just not minding what happens around me.
Yeah, you're right. And I will tell those people, no, you don't need to feel anxious. No, you don't need to feel sad. You don't need to feel angry. Those emotions, they don't serve you really. Those emotions, if they keep on coming back, if anxiety keep on coming back, stress, anger, they make you sick. All recurrent emotional difficulties make us sick. Basically, every time we have an anger, and we bottle it, or we try to control it, or we try to control a stress, or we try to ignore something. Basically, it's like the body bleeding from inside. It's a bit graphic, but it's like internal bleeding. Every time those emotion comes, it's tremendous stress on the body, tremendous tension. We don't know because we don't pay attention to them. And those emotions will make us sick, and you can control them, you can bottle them. That's like putting a Band-Aid on them. But anytime you've been in a situation that triggers those emotions, the Band-Aid will be ripped off and the bleeding will start again. Mm-hmm. With Tipi, we allow the wound, the internal wound, to just heal, like we said at the beginning, to just heal and stop the bleeding. And you know what? Like you, I'm sure, now that I work with Tipi and you work with your own stuff, I feel more emotion than I ever did, in the sense that when I feel an emotion, it is crisp, it is clean, and I do not hold on to it. The emotion that I feel are in the present. I don't ruminate about it. When I do a talk, I don't feel stressed anymore. I just feel excited to be there. But when I hear something sad, when I lose somebody that I love, the pain is clean, it is sharp, and it is maybe more painful than it has ever been in my life. But it will be much shorter. And my body, my being will be able to integrate this new information and move on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, no, you don't need to feel those emotions. We are human, so of course we are emotional beings. And of course we're going to feel sad if there's something sad happening. Of course we're going to react if we see the news and we don't like what is happening in the world. It is not normal that we hold on to those difficult emotions. It is not normal to think about it over and over again and make ourselves sick again. No, it is not necessary, and the body is not made for that.
I think those are definitely wise words. So Cedric, I wanted also to ask you just a little bit about, because as you said, like, it sounds very far-fetched. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, as with anything, whether it's the paleo diet or yoga or any kind of new practice, one of the big issues is facing the scientific community. So I'm wondering, what does the research show about TP? Has it been done? Are you guys in the process of doing it? And where does it kind of stand in terms of gaining acceptance from the scientific community?
Yeah, it's a good question. In Europe, Luc Nicon is a researcher. So the research is what started everything. It went out in 2007, and the research was specifically the link between short loss of consciousness and emotional patterns. So now we're trying to get it accepted on the more, how can I say, official spectrum, so to speak. But TP in Europe, in Western Europe, in France, in Spain, in Germany, is very well known and has a great reputation. So right now we're working with hospitals in France, psychiatric hospitals and regular hospital, to make the study even more official. So the study exists, it is known, it is out there, and the thing is, it's in France. So my goal in being in the States is, what I like to do is to do basically the study again through a university in order for us to basically make it more easier to communicate on it. To communicate on this work. So to answer your question, the study is there. It is known and recognized in Western Europe. And that's why we have access to jails and schools and hospitals. And the awareness is starting.
That's fantastic. It reminds me a little bit of when I talked to Wim Hof, and he's like, everyone thought I was a kook 10 years ago, but now you see an article about Wim Hof method practically every single day on the blog.
Absolutely.
And again, if, I haven't tried TP, but if you talk to Wim Hof 10 years ago and he told you all you got to do is breathe really, really fast and then hold your breath and you'll be able to control your autonomous nervous system, people would think you were a total quack, right?
Things don't have to be complicated, man. The power of the human body is, talking about being a superhuman, the power of a human body is absolutely outstanding. Our power for integrating things, learning from things. And I think we make it difficult because we became way too intelligent. And intelligence is helping us in becoming entrepreneurs, in communicating, and that's wonderful. But when it comes to the basic needs of a human, the basic recovery needs, it's already in us. It comes from way far down the line. Luc will always say, I did not discover anything. I just was lucky to put the finger on something extremely simple that other people found before me, but it wasn't the time maybe to communicate on it. Freud even talked about it at the very beginning of his career, about the felt sense. It is known for centuries that those sensations in the body can lead to complete healing, basically.
Cedric, I also want to ask you, what other types of routines, skills, habits, things like that, have you found working with patients and also in your own journey that have kind of helped you perform at a higher level?
Right now, I'm a bad example because I'm mostly using TP. That's what I worked the best for me. Before that, I did meditations, spending a lot of time in nature. I worked with a program called the New Warrior Project, the Mankind Project, which is a men. You know them? Yeah?
Yeah, great program.
Men work, great program. It rocked my world really at the time. It really was very important to me. And reading, I was reading a lot of Don Miguel Ruiz with the Four Agreements was for me very important. Eckhart Tolle, Gabor Mate, I don't know if you know Gabor, but addiction and trauma was a great influence of me. David Hawkins as well.
That's great. You kind of led into my next question, which are, what are some of the most impactful books you've ever read? So you listed a few, The Four Agreements, The Power of Now, phenomenal book. Any others you wanted to throw in there?
Yeah, When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate, quite amazing. David Data, The Way of the
Superior Man.
Excellent. Yeah, these are the big ones for me. And David Hawkins as well, Letting Go, Power versus Force.
Fantastic. On a similar vein, are there any kind of products or resources, softwares, things like that that you simply couldn't live without?
Nowadays in my life, no, not really. I cut a lot of this. My life is quite electronically zen right now, and it might change. But no, so far I don't have a product that I'm really tied to. No, except walking a lot in nature. I sound like a cuckoo, but I spend a lot of time in nature, and that's for me is really important.
Awesome. So transitioning just into the wrap-up phase of the interview, I wanted to give you an opportunity to assign the audience a piece of homework that they can maybe try this week. I mean, you explained a little bit about how to conduct some TP on themselves. Is there anything more specific you'd like to add, or maybe a different kind of homework assignment that you'd like to give people?
Yep, absolutely. So this is what they can do. Take a piece of paper, and in order to create awareness on our emotional pattern, for them to note 4 main behaviors that we're taking when we face a fear. Those 4 main behaviors, most people know it. It is aggressiveness, escape, inhibition, and taking control, overpowering either way people around us or taking control over ourselves, for example, by deep breathing or having a drink or smoking pot, whatever. Take those 4 behaviors and find specific situation when they actually feel aggressiveness. Find specific situation when they actually try to escape or avoid, etc., etc. Be specific in order for them to put on their radar their emotional behaviors. And when is it that they react out of fear? Because if we have aggressiveness, if we try to escape or avoid, if we're inhibited, or if you try to take control arbitrarily over a situation, it is because there is a fear or there are fears behind it. So be specific and notice how we react about these 4 behaviors. And when they catch themselves in life having an emotion where they don't feel well, such as anxiety, stress, anger, when they want to bail out of a situation because it's uncomfortable. Okay, when you feel this way, do not try to control it. Do not judge yourself, but simply move out of the situation. Go to the bathroom, for example, go to your room, go to a hallway. You sit down. As you feel the emotion, you sit down, you close your eyes. You pay attention to your physical sensations. As you feel the emotion in you, you do that. You don't want to wait. When the emotion is in you, that's the right moment to regulate it. So you feel the emotion, you go in a place where you feel safe, you close your eyes, you pay attention to your physical sensations. You observe your sensations as they're evolving in your body. You let them evolve without trying to control them whatsoever, just with curiosity. You consciously surrender to the sensations in your body. And you follow those sensations until your body feels calm. When you feel calm, you open your eyes. That's it.
I love it. That's a phenomenal homework assignment for everyone to experiment with at home. Where, Cedric, can people learn more about you and get in touch with you if they want to maybe book a session or even learn how to do this themselves a little bit further?
Yeah, it's quite easy. You can go to tipi.pro, tipi.pro, or I also have a personal website, which is cedricbertelli.com.
Amazing. Cedric, I want to thank you so much. I just want to ask one last question, which is if people take away really one last message, one take home from the episode, what would you hope for that to be?
That when it comes down to emotions, you have the key to emotional freedom, to your emotional freedom. You don't need anyone. You can heal yourself, even if you suffer from PTSD, even if you have been anxious from the time you were 2 years old. When you feel the emotion in your life today, you don't have to go back to a trauma. You don't have to go back to a time of your childhood. When you feel the emotion today in your life, the window is open for you to allow yourself to heal from this emotion. The power is in you. And once you do that once, twice, 3, 4 times, you will see the difference in your life and how emotionally more free you become and more powerful you become. So do not hesitate. Like, take the bull by the horn and take responsibility or ownership of your emotion. Do not run away from them. You got to get inside them. You have got to become intimate with how it feels to be anxious or stressful. Just don't be afraid. Get in there. Pay attention to the physical sensations and discover this part of yourself that is just wanted to be healed, basically. That's what I can say.
Incredible. Cedric, thank you so much again for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. And I do hope we keep in touch.
Jonathan, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Yes, I will keep in touch. Keep in touch as well. And it really was a pleasure to be with you this morning here.
Awesome. Well, you take care.
Thank you. You too, man. Thank you very much.
See ya.
Bye.
All right, super friends, that's it for this week's episode. We hope you really enjoyed it and learned a ton of applicable stuff that can help you go out there and overcome the impossible. If so, please do us a favor and leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher or however you found this podcast. In addition to that, we are always looking for great guest posts on the blog or awesome guests right here on the podcast. So if you know somebody or you are somebody or you have thought of somebody who would be a great fit for the show or for our blog, please reach out to us either on Twitter or by email. Our email is info@becomingasuperhuman.com. Thanks so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Becoming Superhuman podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.becomingasuperhuman.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.